So a couple days ago, I made a short video talking about why I would recommend Mozaik over CabinetVision. And if you haven't seen it, I'll link to it in the description. On that video, I got a comment from Jonathan Corbin. Let me read it to you. He said, "Good comments, but I would like to see a screen-by-screen comparison showing the actual capabilities of both. That would be truly helpful as I'm a small shop using Mozaik and wondering what features CV brings that Mozaik can't." So that's exactly my goal with this channel, is being able to inform and educate cabinet shops on not only what solutions are out there, but exactly what they can do for them. So in this video, I'm going to do a side-by-side comparison between CabinetVision and Mozaik, and we're going to look at more of the front-end features. And when I say front-end, I mean like things you would do while you're in a job. So we're going to be talking about how you would add a wall, how you would add a cabinet, how you would edit the cabinet, and we're just going to look at them side-by-side and see what the differences are between CabinetVision and Mozaik. Now my videos did get just a little bit lengthy, so I'm actually going to be splitting this up into two parts. I'll be releasing part 2 in a week, and that one I'm going to be talking more about the back-end features. Also, on a side note, I don't work for CabinetVision or Mozaik, so this is an unbiased review. So with that, let's get into this side-by-side comparison. To start a new job, I'm going to click the new icon in the top left corner. Now I can accept the defaults and click OK and go straight into adding my cabinets, or I can go through and set up what I know about the job. So, job name, customer information, comment and schedule. I don't make too much use of that, but you can certainly use the schedule on your title blocks and drawings. Next we have room information. I typically leave this blank and just edit it later in the job, but you can set your default finishes and your layout, such as wall height. Next we have our cabinet. So the first tab we have is construction, so I pick full overlay, frameless, whatever construction you have available. I pick my drawer box construction and my rollout construction. Then we go to the materials tab, and we're going to pick what material these cabinets are going to be made out of. So they split up the uppers and the base into separate ones, so if you need to pick separate material schedules you can. And then they also have the finished interior material schedule, so you can quickly toggle between an exposed interior. Then we have material schedules for drawer box and rollout as well. Third tab is hardware. Again, pretty simple to understand. Just make the choices that you need for this job. Then we get to doors. They have a pretty nice door selector. So the first tab is called all. So whatever I pick here, I can just look through my categories and easily see what I have. And whatever I pick here will carry down to all the others. So you see that base is just going to accept whatever all was. But then drawer, I actually overrode it because I wanted a slab drawer. So really easy to make your different options there. And flutes and layout I typically don't use much of. Countertops, they actually have a new module for countertops. I only used countertops for visual uses, so I really don't have too much input on this, but you can at least get a nice visual rendering without the countertop module. You only need that if you're building countertops. And then molding, you pick your material, and then you can pick your type of profile. So that works pretty well. And then once you're happy with all your selections, you simply click OK, and we're in the job. To start a new job, I'm going to go to File and click New, and I'll give it a name. And then I can fill out some very basic customer information. I can edit the job parameters, which is basically kind of fine-tuning the construction of how the cabinets in this job are going to be built. And I can do some other basic details. Job site data, I didn't find this too useful myself. I like the specification sheet that comes from it. It'd be pretty handy at quick glance. But I don't like that this is a separate list. I wish it'd be tied to actual Mozaik data. Pictures, interesting idea, but probably not that useful for most of us. And job notes. Next we go to settings. And here's where we can decide how the cabinets in this job are going to be built. So I'm going to actually switch to the shaker template, so you can make these different configurations with materials, doors, and all the different options. CabinetVision has this same option as well, being able to save job templates. So I love what Mozaik does with the images. Just having that validation without clicking into anything. CabinetVision does more of just the drop-down list rather than the images. So Mozaik definitely has that going for it. I also like that you can preview the profiles. So yeah, this is a very nice screen here to be able to easily pick what you need to, there's just no question what you're doing because you can associate an image with it. That's a very nice feature. And so materials, again, very similar to Cabinet Vision. You just go through and pick your materials for your doors, drawers, cabinets, all that type of thing. Now textures, I don't like the way Mozaik does their textures. Cabinet Vision does more of textures are tied to materials, and if it sees that material is used, it will put the right texture on it. Mozaik more just kind of throws a texture on the cabinet regardless of the material. But nonetheless, it works fine, and it kind of gets rid of a lot of confusion when you're just trying to get a drawing. And so with that, we can switch to the Room tab, and we're ready to start our job. So let's draw some walls in Cabinet Vision. So if I click the Walls tab, and then I can just click and start drawing, very similar to Mozaik. And I can do the single line or the chain line, depending on my preference. If I want to switch between it, I can just hit line and then back, and now I'll just draw one wall at a time. So that part is pretty standard across all cabinet design softwares. And then once I want to go back and edit the wall, I can just click on it. I can change the height of the wall. I can change the soffit, how much of a space above the wall cabinets is going to leave by default, and I can change the thickness. And then I can switch between different types of walls. If I'm doing an island, I'll use a peninsula wall. Now, the thing I like about Cabinet Vision's wall designing is when I start with a complex room, I actually won't start with walls. What I'll do instead is I'll use CAD, and I'll draw the shape of the room. And what I like about starting with CAD is it's easy to offset. If I need to be 40 inches from here and 20 inches from here, it's easy to make this diagram, and then I can easily come back and just snap my walls to those points. And so for me, if I get any kind of complex rooms at all, that CAD feature really sets Cabinet Vision apart from Mozaik. So now let's draw some walls in Mozaik. So one thing I do like about Mozaik is this quick room option. It's a little gimmicky, but in some cases this can definitely give you a little head start, and then it's easy to customize the walls as you need them. But the actual wall drawing part itself is going to be very similar to Cabinet Vision. Now, I do think that Mozaik's drawing tool is just a little bit glitchy compared to Cabinet Vision. It just seems to lag a little bit more, but all the features are there. You can still do exactly what you want, and even though we don't have the CAD tools, we can use the ruler, and we can still accomplish what we need to in Mozaik. And then just like Cabinet Vision, easy to change the height and make it an island cabinet, and a lot of the same functionality on the drawing walls part of it. Okay, let's start adding cabinets into Cabinet Vision. So from the plan view, I'm going to go to Objects, and I'm working from the custom cabinet catalog. Now you can easily copy this catalog and kind of make it your own and save your different configurations. It's really easy to do save as and kind of get your library built up. But for now, I'm just going to pull the standard base out. I just click and drag and place it on the wall. I can easily switch between the different render modes, however I like to see it. I can flip between the window view, so if you like to see the constant 3D, maybe along with the elevation and the plan all at the same time, it's very customizable viewer that you can get. These cannot be detached. That's one downside. I like Mozaik's external 3D viewer, so you can just always have it up. But all the same, it is a very nice, fully functioning thing that updates as I make changes. So I want to switch back to the normal window, and we're going to go to the elevation view, back to objects, and then we can easily click and drag cabinets from this view as well. So once the cabinets are on the wall, if I highlight the cabinet, I can get my placement parameters over here. So the top one we have here is clearance. So if I want this cabinet to stop 3 inches short of this wall, I just type in 3. Or if I want to put it tight against this cabinet, I just type in 0. So very easy to move cabinets around that way. Obviously we have dimensions. And the nice thing about the dimensions is It's actually an inline calculator, so I can do plus inch and 5/8 or something like that. Whenever you have two fractions, this is really helpful. If you can't do it in your head, you don't have to have another calculator out on your desk. Okay, so let's add some cabinets in Mozaik. And you're going to see that the process of adding cabinets in Cabinet Vision and Mozaik is almost identical. So I'm going to go to Products, and I can pick from my different catalogs just like in Cabinet Vision. I can look at my different categories and just pull out the cabinets by dragging and dropping. And I can switch to the Elevation tab and do the same thing. So very, very similar process. Now, one thing I do like about Mozaik, in Cabinet Vision, I have to click on the right clearance, hit 0, and click Enter. Whereas in Mozaik, I have this quick little snap to button, which can save an entire click, if that means anything to you. But yeah, that is a nice feature. And I had to chuckle a little bit as I was recording the Cabinet Vision thing. I made note of the inline calculator. I did not realize Mozaik had it until after that video. It's funny how you can use a software and never find the simplest things. But Mozaik also has the inline calculations. And so Mozaik has the right click menu and some basic options down here on the bottom as well. So almost identical process of adding cabinets and placing them on a wall. Okay, now let's look at editing a cabinet in Cabinet Vision. So from the plan or elevation view, I can just double click on a cabinet, and this will go inside the cabinet. So there's a few views available. The section view is where you can change the layout of the cabinet. The face view is more for fine-tuning and making more advanced adjustments of the parts themselves. And so the face plan and end view are all of those types of view. You just have access to the parts directly, and you can kind of override how they think they should be in the cabinet. So I typically don't like to use these unless it's a last resort. The section editor is definitely the best way to move things around if you need to. 3D view, like we see over here in my Malta screen, and then the reports shows a nice little part summary and the material that's on it. So I'm not going to go very in-depth on all the features for sake of time, but I will show you just a few of the things that we can do to a cabinet in Cabinet Vision. So first of all, we have finished ends. If I want to put a finished end on the right, I would just select it over here and choose from one of the types that are available. And if I want to do a panelized end, I can do that. And then obviously that's not the styles and rails that I want, so I could come into Properties and section this however I see fit. Now, the sectioning of the exterior, obviously I wouldn't drag and drop. I would highlight the opening and type exactly what I need. And then if I want to add a split, I just select the opening and do a vertical split. I'll put it right in the center, and then I can do a horizontal split to make this 2 drawers. And so very easy to lay out the cabinet exactly as you want it. Now I'm going to switch to the section interior, and we're going to put a horizontal split, and I want to make this a fixed shelf. This will be attached to the middle rail. As long as I click right on the middle rail, it'll land where it needs to. And same with the partition. As long as I click on the style, that will land there, and then we'll put 2 shelves over here. So very easy to lay out my sectioning. And now for a couple of the other things we can do to a cabinet. If I go up to Properties, and there's several tabs available. I'm just going to click on the first one. I can easily toggle between them through the tabs here. So I can change the dimensions and the name and description. And then a lot of this is going to be just overrides from what we picked in the room profile. So if I chose full overlay for my room construction, but I want to change this to frameless, I can do that here. Same with material and doors, just overrides. And frame, this is just overriding the defaults. Most times if I want to change the frame, I'll just click on it and do it here. I don't necessarily use the frame defaults. And if I go back into my tab, the other 2 things that are often used are the type of top. So you can select between full top, gussets, and no bottom or standard bottom. And then the case is for your scribe, like if you have an unfinished end, like how far it is from the end. And then the last one that's used quite often is exposed interior. So what happens here is this will automatically switch to the exposed interior material schedule. So it now knows that everything here needs to be made out of cherry instead of the pre-finished UV like we had earlier. And then obviously another big one that is often used is the toe kick. So just some very basic settings. Again, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, but you can see it's very easy to just make total changes to what the cabinet was originally brought in as. Okay, now let's edit our cabinet in Mozaik. So same thing as before, from the plan or elevation view, I can just double click to go inside. And Mozaik is a little bit more condensed into tabs and kind of hidden behind screens than what Cabinet Vision is, but you're going to find, again, like it was with adding cabinets, that things are very, very similar. I can change dimensions, I can go to the face, and I can easily section exactly like I was in Cabinet Vision. I can easily add splits, just like I did in Cabinet Vision. And if I switch to the interior thing, you know, all of this is just very, very, very familiar stuff. So from that side, I'd say it's because Roger Taylor had roots coming from, you know, was starting Cabinet Vision. I think he did a good job of keeping the good stuff and kind of re-optimizing some of the things that are a little overly complex in Cabinet Vision. Okay, let's edit the shape of a cabinet in Cabinet Vision. So I'm going to go inside the cabinet, and I want to be in the plan view or the top view. I can edit the shape from any direction, but for the sake of this video, I'm going to do it from the top view. I'll click the edit shape, and there's lots of CAD-like tools, so it's very easy to, you can actually just delete everything here and just start from scratch and draw whatever shape you want. Or if you want to do like just a simple chamfer, you know, you just pick what you want it to be, pick your 2 lines, and you're good to go. And then the nice thing is I can click on each line and assign what each of these should be. So if I want this to be just a filler board, and then just leave these at ends, face, end, and back, it's really easy to lay that out. Now, for one-time shape editing, you can do anything you need to do, and it works well. Now, the problem I see with Cabinet Vision Shape Editor is when you're doing like a corner cabinet or something that has some curves, you know, it's really hard to be able to section or to shape this cabinet in a way that it's parametric. So, you know, again, if we're not changing the dimensions of it and we're just editing the shape one time, it works really well. But they have all these features available for locking it and kind of putting constraints on it so it shapes correctly as you change the dimensions. But with my experience, you have to do things in a very specific order, and most times, like if I sit down and try to do a parametric corner cabinet, typically it'll take me way longer than I thought, and I'll usually end up pretty frustrated because it's just it doesn't seem to always act the way that it seems like it should. But very powerful shape editor, and I think that's one of the reasons Cabinet Vision is so good for like reception desk and, you know, just all kinds of, you know, whatever you can think of. Okay, now let's edit the shape of a cabinet in Mozaik. So I'm going to double click to go inside of it. I'll go to the Shape tab, and I'll go to Edit Cabinet Shape. I love their pre-configured layouts here. Very nice to be able to easily do what I want. Now, you're not going to find near the CAD tools and the fancy options available in the toolbars as what we saw in Cabinet Vision, but from what I've seen, I've had so much better success actually shaping things and allowing it to stick using simple anchors rather than all these you know, fancy constraints. So to be honest, I think complex is not always better in the case of this, because a simple shape editor solves 99% of the things you need here. Okay, next let's take a quick look at the countertops and moldings. So both of these are very similar, and they're also almost identical between Cabinet Vision and Mozaik, but I'll show you just a quick overview. So if I go to tops, I'll just do auto build tops, and it builds that for me. So the auto build works pretty well in most cases, and if it doesn't, it's very easy to just go into the countertop section, right click, edit shape, and then I can move this exactly how I want it. And again, just like the shape editor with the cabinets, Every line I click on, I can pick what type of edge it is. So very easy to make your L-shaped kitchens, your islands, and you can do your little rounded corners. Very powerful shape editor. Now the molding is going to work almost identical as well. Let me drop a wall cabinet in first. And then I'll go back to the molding section and we'll do crown auto build molding. So again, the auto build works almost 90% of the time, and if it doesn't, we can just edit the shape and do whatever we need to from there. Maybe we want to add a line here, and you get the idea. Okay, so in Mozaik, if I switch to the tops tab, I can do the auto build tops, and just like in Cabinet Vision, the auto build works very well, and I can easily edit the shape if I need to. So that part is totally functional. I'll just reject those edits. And then molding, same thing. Do the automatic mode, pick what you need, and then you can edit the shape later. So, just because Cabinet Vision has fancier CAD tools doesn't mean they're everyone necessary. Do they make it nice depending on what you're doing? Yes, but are they used in every situation? Probably not. Okay, so now let's look at the 3D renderings. So first off, just apples to apples, the actual just textured renders without actually doing a photorealistic renders are very comparable to Mozaik. You're not going to see any crazy detail without the rendering add-on. Now, to talk just a little bit about the rendering add-on, this does have the capability to produce really, really nice renders. But if I just run this right now without setting up my lights, without setting up my camera, without putting a floor in, this is going to look really bad. The shadows, it's going to be dark. It won't even produce fine lines because the light isn't on the right position. And so you can spend a lot of time on this. And if you're a retail shop and part of your value to your customers is providing photorealistic renderings, then yeah, it's worth spending the time on. But if you just need to get a drawing out the door, you don't want your guy spending 2 to 3 hours setting this up. So just a quick summary of some of the things you can do. I love the camera thing, so you can position your guy and your view wherever you want to be, and then you can widen the angle to whatever you need it to be to fit the room. So what this is really nice for is one example is if you're in like a narrow little pantry, if you just hide the wall and just get a full shot, it doesn't look very real. But if you position your camera so it looks like you're looking in the door, and then you just widen your shot so it fits, that's how you get those realistic looking photos as if you were in the room. But all this stuff takes time, but Cabinet Vision is definitely a capable rendering system. Okay, now let's look at the 3Ds in Mozaik. Now, I actually am a fan of the 3Ds in Mozaik. They're a little cartoonish maybe, but the lines are clean, you can easily see the detail, and if you're not needing to produce photorealistic things to your customers, Mozaik's 3D rendering is very, very acceptable in my opinion. Plus, if you need more from Mozaik, it's not a deal breaker. You can always use the SketchUp plugin. Okay guys, that's all I'm going to do for part 1. I hope you enjoyed the side-by-side look at kind of just basic functionality from the front end. I don't know how it was for you, but when I was making this video and just rewatching the video, I'm shocked at exactly how similar some of the things are in Cabinet Vision and in Mozaik. The only major thing that I feel like Mozaik is kind of lacking in is the CAD tools. Everything else, like, their shape editor, for example, this is a really good example. The shape editor in Cabinet Vision is way more advanced. But I think I actually like Mozaik's shape editor better, if I can say that, because for the normal guy to just go in and be able to quickly do what they need to do, I feel like Mozaik kept it simple and they did a better job. So complex is not always better. Overall, with all the front-end features we looked at in this video, it's a very, very tight matchup. And, you guys saw it as we switched back and forth. So many of the things and the way they did things, they're almost identical. Sure, Cabinet Vision might have a couple things I like better, or Mozaik might have a couple things I like better. But from when you're in a job, they're both very functional, they're both very capable, and they're both very powerful. Alright, thanks for watching, guys. Be sure to subscribe so you can get a notification for when I release part 2, because part 2 is really where we're going to get more into the details and help you understand Which software is more aligned to your goals as your shop?